sir. Reading you loud and clear. Clear. The clock has started.
The clock has started.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
And welcome to Radio Chutzpah, broadcasting live from beautiful downtown Ra'anana, Israel, which is just north of our wonderful city of Tel Aviv. And we welcome all our listeners here tonight. I'm your host, Kerry Zayas, and I'm here with my audacious and able assistant, the one and only Ashy 7.
Hey, hello guys. Hi. Well, good. Good. It's good. It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's the one and only Ashy 7. That's her. Yeah. Anyway, tonight, as advertised, we are going to be talking about sex, lies, and cover-ups. Maybe in that order, maybe not. And what I'm going to really tie in with all this to make some sense out of that headline, in case any of you are wondering what we were really going to talk about, it is involving sex, lies, and cover-ups. But what we're specifically going to talk about, and you're going to see how it comes together, is the whole Megillah story and the whole source throughout the whole press on and on and on about Harvey Weinstein, whose name I want to mention as little as possible, which we'll get to in a minute. And really it's about sexual harassment and being sexual predators and sexual molestation by powerful men over women who work or want to work for them. And in particularly in the entertainment industry. It has not died down in the press for many, many days. It keeps growing. The other thing, which we want to talk about, is the whole thing with John F. Kennedy, JFK assassination, which has come into the news more lately because of the so-called release, which ended up being partial, of all the remaining documents from this event, which happened, by the way, for those of you who don't know, over 50 years ago. That's right, over half a century ago, and yet it is now still a big sensation because documents have not been released, and that's thousands of them, and it seems like President Trump now is forced or coerced by the intelligence people in America not to release all of them, which we'll discuss more in a minute. This is a live call and talk show. Through the magic of the internet and Skype in particular, you can call us. You can Skype us, as they say in internet parlance. You can Skype us at radio, first word radio, RADIO, second word chutzpah, CHUTZPAH. That's Radio Chutzpah. Skype us at Radio Chutzpah. And my able assistant should be typing that address in for you to see on the player that you should have in front of you if you're with us. Let's start with the Harvey Weinstein because that's more in the press and more known to most people.
Ozzy's here.
Oh, Ozzy. Welcome to Ozzy in Sweden.
He told me to remind him.
Okay, in Sweden. Welcome as always. So Harvey Weinstein, longtime powerful Hollywood producer and director. We've all heard, or at least most of us have maybe heard the story about the infamous casting couch. That is the little hidden language about where female people in the entertainment industry have to basically give sexual favors to the directors, the casting agents, and so forth in order to either get their parts and jobs or to keep them. And it's been fairly well known by most people involved in the industry and even on the side part of this involved with the industry that this has been going on for a long time and people have been looking the other way. It seems that Mr. Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein, is probably one of the biggest practices of the casting couch and has been accused now by multiple women in the industry of not just sexual harassment but of sexual molestation and even rape. Now, all this is alleged. I want to make that clear. I am not going to pass judgment. It is not my place to pass judgment. That is for a court of law. However, it seems the evidence by all these women seems have a huge amount of weight to it, to the point where the Academy Award people, the organization of the Screen Actors, it's not the Screen Actors Guild, it's the Academy, the Screen Academy that gives out the Oscars, has basically removed him from that, and he's been removed from other things as well, including the company that bears his name. But again, I don't want to dwell on Mr. Weinstein himself, because I think what should be really focused on more is the actual behavior that's going on of workplace sexual harassment, sexual predatory behavior, actual even sexual molestation. Of course, this is intolerable, criminal, and should not be allowed or tolerated or accepted in any way. However, I feel that the press, even here in Israel, and I'll mention names, the Times of Israel, has focused. If you look at their website, you will see that it constantly says Harvey Weinstein story continuing, Harvey Weinstein coverage continuing. It keeps going back to his name. I think we're giving him publicity he doesn't deserve. I think that this also, which I'm going to go into a little bit more later, adds to an anti-Semitic or an anti-Jewish aspect to this, which you'll see I'll bring up again more in a minute with another dynamic to this story. What is also has happened here is, many of you have probably heard of, there's a hashtag #MeToo presence on various social media, particularly on Twitter, and where suddenly everybody is coming up and saying, oh yeah, me too. I was raped. I was molested. I was touched. I was propositioned. There's some stories that went on, which to show as an example is President George H.W. Bush, that's George Sr. to some people, the first President Bush. Some people came out and accused that while they were in the White House, he touched them inappropriately. He stood too close to them. He acted inappropriately. And actually, from what I've read in the press, that President Bush Sr. has admitted that maybe he did this, and for anything he did wrong, and if he misbehaved, he apologized. It's gone further, though, than that. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying, now it comes out, and you have to remember, he was president decades ago. Women have now, or a woman, I don't know if it's one or two more, have now come out, and I'm not going to mention a name because I don't feel like perpetrating this accusation against a famous Jewish person who is now nifta, is dead, in the ground, cannot defend himself whatsoever. Now, even if it's true, I have to question, one, the person coming out, joining the proverbial bandwagon, and making such accusations against a famous person who is a big role model and a very important person in the Jewish community, and now accusing them of oh yeah, he did this to me, he did that to me. He cannot even defend himself anymore. I have to I have to question that. Again, if he did that behavior, I'm not excusing it. I want to make sure that you understand. I am not excusing it nor condoning it in any way. But I have to question, what's the purpose of that and why now? And he's also can't even defend himself. It's gotten further. There is an aspect of a witch hunt. For those of you who know history, the McCarthy era. During the McCarthy era in the 50s, Congressman McCarthy was able to set up a committee and basically accuse anyone just by inference or by association, oh yeah, you're a communist. And unlike what is supposed to be, where a person is innocent until proven guilty, in this case, the people had to prove they were innocent. They were automatically guilty just because they were named. Well, there is, unfortunately, some dynamics of that going on now. There are reports of people, again, whose names I don't want to mention, who have been basically fired, technically forced to resign from some important jobs because some women now with the hashtag #MeToo have said, oh yeah, this guy also is a predator. This guy made me go to bed with him. This guy touched me wrong. And they've lost their jobs without having a day in court. They've been assumed to be guilty because all these people are now on the bandwagon, like saying, yeah, this person's no good, this person's no good, this person's no good. This is bad. This is dangerous. And again, I'll say again, I'll probably repeat it more times. I am neither condoning nor excusing, sexual predatory behavior or sexual harassment. But when it gets to the point of where everyone starts doing what's basically finger pointing via the social media, and it's causing people to actually lose their jobs because of it without any proof whatsoever, I'm sorry. That's over the line. That's wrong. What do you think? Call us. Skype us. Skype us at radio, first word radio, RADIO, second word chutzpah, CHUTZPAH. There's another interesting dynamic here of what's associated with this story. There is an actress, you may know her. Her name is Mayim Bialik. She's Jewish. She's actually a practicing, what we would call like a liberal modern Orthodox Jew. She's famous for a lot of things in Hollywood. She's currently as a starring role on a very famous show called The Big Bang Theory. Mayim Bialik is a well-known liberal feminist, has always spoken up and tried to support women and girls. And when the Harvey Weinstein thing was breaking, the sexual predatory behavior and the bad behavior sexually in the entertainment industry, she was able to write a piece on her blog, and also what I think was guest published in the New York Times, where she basically talked about her own behavior, that she practices as best as she can a degree of modesty in dress as well as behavior, and basically said this is something that I live in and I believe in and feel it's maybe a good way for women to practice. But she didn't blame anybody. She didn't accuse anybody. She didn't preach to anybody. Mayim Bialik, within hours after that being published, was, I say, viciously attacked, widespread attacked in the social media and the regular media as being a woman who's blaming the victims. Some people said she was worse than the male predators themselves, that she's siding with them, she's making excuses for them, and blaming the women themselves. Now, again, I feel just like the emphasis being on Mr. Weinstein instead of on the actions and the behavior involved is that this smells of Jew hate. This smells of anti-Semitism. I think that she would have gotten somewhat that of reaction, even if she was something obviously other than Jewish. But I believe because of who she is, her name, she's made it well known she's a practicing Jew, that the hatred was huge and vitriolic. It was just horrible. And she was forced basically to apologize when I think maybe she had really nothing to apologize for. And that brings us to another point about the idea of modest dress and modest behavior. Now, in an ideal world, a woman, or I guess a man, should be able to walk down the street or go into an office or wherever they want naked. And it shouldn't cause them any kind of harm or threat whatsoever. And that there is no excuse for a person to rape or accost or molest another person, no matter how they're dressed or undressed, for that matter. But that's in an ideal world. We have laws and customs for society, for civility, that people have a certain amount of dress. Now, again, there is no excuse for someone accosting, raping, or molesting somebody because of their state of dress or undress, or even their state of behavior, for that matter. But there has to be common sense, has to also be applied. Women and men, for that matter, have to use some common sense and good judgment in how they behave, how they dress, how they act, where they go, who they're with, and who they're not with. Again, I am repeating myself. I'm never going to make excuse or condone the behavior of sexual molesters or predators or people who do sexual harassment. But there also has to be a matter of good judgment and common sense involved here. Again, we would love to hear your opinion. Pro, against, hate what I'm saying, love what I'm saying, don't know. Skype us at Radio Chutzpah. That's first word radio, RADIO. Second word Chutzpah, CHUTZPAH. And I'm just going to turn the mic over for a minute to our wonderful Ashy 7, my able and audacious assistant.